Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
How are you guys?
Good.
Before we went on air and you said Alexa's name, my Alexa started talking. It picked up you saying
Don't they say sometimes though that you have to it has to be your voice? Because I know like in well, we have Google, not Alexa, but um I think I have enough Alexa here at the office, so I don't need another Alexa at home. But on my Google one, sometimes when I tell to do stuff, it's like, sorry, I don't recognize your voice, and so I'm like, whatever.
No, I don't know. She just started talking over there, and I'm like, "What the heck?" But you said Alexa's name. I'm like, "Oh, it picked it up." It's way over there in the kitchen.
Oh, how funny. Well, that's what smart devices are for. She's, at least she's
Listening.
ready to go. That's for sure.
Ready to go. I feel like my lighting is bad.
I know. It seems like so dark in here too.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's weird.
well,
But anyways, well, good morning to everyone. Thank you guys all for joining us this morning. We appreciate, you guys, tuning in, to see kind of what's going on in our market, how things are, everybody right now is there's so much uncertainty, what should I do? Should I do this? Should I do that? What should we be doing? And yesterday I noticed on Facebook, there was so much information about this new first time buyer program. I mean, I'm not even kidding you. It was like flooding my feed.
yeah.
But it's just interesting to show to tell you this program has been there, but now that the news has made it aware, now it's something that people want information on. But it's again, it's super important to talk to a professional, because at the end of the day, there's a catch to everything. But in this particular program, there really isn't. There's not really any room, because you only qualify if if you're part of the median household income for the county, and it's low. So obviously prices are here, that's here. So you need about 3 of those incomes, to qualify for a mortgage in order to, for that program.
Yeah.
So it's really deceiving, and you get calls, and these buyers are like, hey, I saw on the news that, they're giving this some money, and you don't have to pay it back. And, and again, they just don't understand all the facts.
Yeah. All they hear is you don't have to pay it back. So
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it makes it really tough and discouraging, because first buyers think, oh, I could get all this money, and then when they call, they need to have, there's certain guidelines in order to get that loan. And then also too, the interest rates are much higher than what FHA or conventional. Typically the interest rates are higher on that as well. So there's a lot of information that is not given to the public front,
Yes, and that's why it's very important, like Sonia said, that we be educated on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, talk to the right person so you can kind of see how if it makes sense for you. I mean, you might be able to find a cheap condo or something really, really inexpensive, but it's going to be a really tough program to put to use right now. But there are others out there. There are other programs out there. So, but like I said, it's just, to me, it caught my eye because it's all over everybody's feed. Call me. There's this new program. Call me. And so you just wonder how many people really actually know, or is it just a gimmick to get, people to call you? I don't know. But just to start to have those conversations. But I wanted to share just to kind of put it into perspective, a $3,500 payment. So in January, about January, the beginning of the year, the interest rates were about 3.2, around there, average for a conventional loan, and a payment for about $3,500. Your purchase power was about $807,000. So that was in January. Okay, so this is why we tell clients, things can change. No one has a crystal ball. So it's important that if it is something that, when you meet with your professional, if it makes sense for you, then, then do it, because, things can change. And right now things are definitely changing at a rapid pace. So then you get into February, the first week of February, rates went up a little bit. They're now at about 3.5%. Same type of loan with a $3,500 payment. You can now buy a home that's $775. So if you notice, you went down about almost $35,000. So that's the difference. But prices are going here, not here, So now you're having to, find a home with, in a different maybe area, or maybe a smaller square footage, less bedroom, or maybe an amenity that you wanted. So it's important to take a look at that. Then you get into the beginning of March, rates are now 3.5, or I'm sorry, not 3.5, 3.75, basically for the same loan. So now you're like at 755. Okay. So you're still, you're coming down, or you need a larger down payment. Then you come down to April, the first week of April. Now you're at 4.75. Okay, so that's what the rate is, 4.75. Now your purchase power is about 677,000. So you started off at 807,000. Now, that was January. Now, here we are, April. In the beginning of April, you're at 677. Well, at the end of April, we're at 5.1, which we're even higher now, just so you know. We're higher now, but I did it just for up until that date. We're at 643.
Wow.
So just look at the difference as to now where you're at. If nothing's changed for you as far as you don't have more money down. So think about it, 807 to 643 in a matter of 4 months. That's a substantial difference, especially if you're looking to be in a certain area where, let's just say you were at 700, 750, you're completely out of the market. You're just completely out of the market. So again, no, I'm sure no one thought that this was going to go as quick as it did, and it's continuing to move at a rapid pace. So I just think it's important to, talk to a professional, explore all options. I know everybody's like this when it comes to adjustable rate mortgages. That's the first thing people ask you. Where are my documents? Does it say fixed? I want to see where it says fixed. I'm not kidding you. I'm a notary as well. I don't sign docs much anymore, but when I did, everybody wanted to see where it said fixed. That was like a big thing. But there are other options out there if it makes sense for the consumer. So, they're going to have to start exploring more options and see, what the difference is, if it makes sense, because it could make sense. It could be the difference between you buying now and not. There are some really great programs, especially some of the 7-year fixed, which I think, again, 7 years is a long time. It does come quick, but that's enough time to, either dispose of the property or be able to refinance. The 2-year fixes are a little bit more, scary, because that comes super quick. And again, 2 years is tough, but 7 years is definitely, based on my experience of being in real estate, is definitely enough time for you to gauge, what your next move is going to be. So again, just, be wise and mindful that there are options if you still want to be a homeowner, and don't get discouraged. Some sellers are trying to buy and sell at the same time, and it's been a very tight inventory. But honestly, I have been looking at Upland, Ontario, and Branch Cucamonga, and I'm seeing a lot more inventory in the past couple weeks. I am seeing it opening up. And I am seeing now, and I was telling Nicole, agents are now calling you after you show the property, where that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
They're calling and they're saying, "Hey, did your client like my home?" It's like, what? Wait, what? So
getting a lot of those.
We're getting that, they're answering, what can we do to work together? So again, it's just showing you that they're feeling it as a listing agent. They're definitely feeling it. There's not as many offers. There's not as many showing requests. So, and it's because, just to show you, look, buyers are just, just can't do it anymore. there's certain ones that just can't. But there's still a lot that can. So now the listing agents are realizing, it's not where, if you don't want it, we have 10 more lined up. It's simply not that, like that anymore. So I don't know, what are your thoughts, Jennifer, Nicole?
Yeah, I like how you did that. You gave that information on the monthly interest rates and how that changed people's affordability, because that really did affect a lot of people. I had a seller that was listed, and we were contingent, and we were looking for, their replacement home. And then in the midst of, I guess, like you said, between March and April, the rate went up so high, and it just changed everything for them. And unfortunately, we weren't able to, find a replacement home that they were willing to move to. So it's definitely affected the industry. But I think it's good because, we're kind of getting back to a normal, like you said, people are, following up on getting feedback on showings when you didn't have a moment to breathe if you were a listing agent the past couple of months, because you had so many offers and so many people calling you. What I experienced yesterday was a sense of urgency from current escrows that I'm in, and listing agents wanting to make sure we're going to close, wanting to make sure, because they know that deals are, falling apart because buyers cannot afford the new interest rate, or if it wasn't locked, or if it expired, whatever the circumstances. There's so many what ifs and what can happen in a real estate transaction. But yesterday I had two listing agents, I'm the listing agent on one of them, and the buyer's agent wrote a very aggressive offer with contingencies, but they're not signing off on the contingency, and they're not, they know that there probably isn't a stronger backup offer than them, so they're not going to sign. That's kind of the way it is. They're moving forward. They're taking action. They ordered their appraisal. They did, but they're not signing. So that was a little frustrating yesterday. And like I said, a listing agent was calling and making sure our buyers are, good, and wanting the buyer's approval and wanting to know where we're at. Just very sense of urgency is what I'm experiencing this week so far with the transactions that I'm in. Good morning, Brenda. Where you at?
I know. Good morning, Brenda. I know.
Good morning.
So yeah, that's what's going on in my transactions and what I see happening right now.
Yep, I totally agree with that, because back in January and February, I couldn't even get agents to answer my calls or text messages, which make it super frustrating when you're trying to negotiate a deal with them. Mm-hmm. But now, like Sonia said, these days, just this past month, I have agents calling me, and when I call them, they answer quickly.
Yeah.
And so this week has been a really good week for me. Honestly, I reached out to an agent on Sunday, put in an offer on Monday, and we opened escrow yesterday. So it's getting much better. I do see that. So I was super happy, and so were my clients. But when they answer their phone and communicate with you, it makes your job so much easier. And then you're able to gain, and build that rapport with that agent, and the trust, the friendship, and it makes it nice, because then you can work with them again later. Yeah. So I'm really, really appreciating their communication. I really am, because it makes it so much easier.
Definitely. Yes, exactly. I don't know about you guys, but I noticed that when a lot of agents, unfortunately, have a bad, taste in their mouth, or maybe aren't educated about, VA buyers. So a lot of the pushback, because I had a couple VA buyers, I know actually Nicole has a couple VA buyers. And when we say VA buyers, these are strong VA buyers. And when I say strong, they're not using the 100%, option, which they can, right? It's their right. It's, what they fought for and everything else, what they signed up for. So it's their benefit and choice. But these VA buyers are putting I know one of them's putting $400,000 down on about a $700,000 purchase. So about 50%, or sometimes even more than 50%, depending on the offer price. But these are solid buyers, but it's super unfortunate when we submit offers, we go to bat for these buyers of ours, and the agents simply say, "Oh, you're the one with the VA offer." It's like, what? Like, honestly, I can't understand.
Yeah.
And I want to just kind of say something from my experience, because I do work with a lot of VA buyers. And what I notice is VA appraisers are a lot more aggressive than a FHA or a conventional appraiser. And when I say that, is because they're veterans as well. And they don't want the veteran to lose the home or to have to renegotiate. So I saw one, honestly, I was a listing agent. We accepted a VA offer, and I was like, I don't know how we're going to get this value. Honestly, I really didn't know. We were about $40,000 off. We honestly were. Yeah, they had some upgrades and stuff like that, but again, they don't get everything that they paid for it. So, but when we got the appraisal back and it came in at value, and that actually happened in the last 6 months about 3 times, on 3 times of me being a listing agent and selling to a VA buyer. But it just went to show me that, what, these appraisers do come in a little bit more aggressive and are excited for the buyer, who is a veteran. So, but again, as a listing agent, sometimes if you're not experienced and you just overhear people saying, "Hey, you know what, VA, they call out everything, they do this, they do that," it's not necessarily true. So you just have to understand, how to work it. I know Nicole was dealing with an agent who kept on rephrasing her counters and was driving us insane because she was just trying to put this verbiage on there that made no sense. And honestly, I told her, this girl is gonna make the buyer walk. Like, just the way her wording was, it was awful. And she just kept saying, "Well, I'm trying to protect my seller." We're like, it made no sense.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the excitement that buyer had for that home, once they read the counter offer, which again, we told her it doesn't make any sense. It's just the way you wrote it. And can we rewrite it? Like, why it was talking about if the appraisal didn't come in at value. But it just the way it was written, like I said, it was just a mess. And sure enough, as soon as Nicole presented it to the buyer, same thing. They were just like, like, and that's exactly what happened. The home that they were just excited about, it just, I felt bad for the agent, and I told Nicole to be honest with the agent and just tell her, you know what, it's unfortunate, but just learn from this. Like, if a buyer's excited, don't try to push your luck. Don't try to push your luck by sending a ridiculous counter. Come on.
Yes. And when I talked to her, she knew it. She felt it. She knew it. And she was, my buyers knew after that they were being unrealistic. But, I'm like, yeah.
It was crazy. So, but again, it just goes to show you, it's important to know, to stand out as a professional. If you want to go in front of a client, friend, family, whoever, and you want to say, "Hey, I want to be your listing agent. I'm signing this listing contract for you or with you." It's important, to know what you're doing and to have, put your best foot forward for this client, especially right now, because you have a lot of, sellers who, if depending on what happens, there's a lot of uncertainty. A lot of sellers think the sky's falling. And right now, this is going to happen, which there is, there's still buyers out there. But if you're promising them what they would have gotten a month ago, you're going to have buyers lined up and this is what's going to happen. Obviously, that's not what's happening right now. So it's important to know that and to, again, educate them and get them prepared for what could be, and what's possible and how negotiating is different. We could sell anything 2 months ago, anything. The home, the roof was caving in. It was okay. It was perfectly fine, you know, but now not so much. Now there's going to be repairs that are going to definitely need to be done. So you got to be a little bit more wise as to, what you're doing and what you're saying to your clients. So like I
We
said,
have
just
to create, sorry.
go ahead.
We have to create their expectations. We have to educate them up front, even though we tell them, we got to constantly be educating them on what's happening in the market. So when it happens in their transaction, they expect it. They know, they're already prepared. It's not something that, that catches them off guard. They know what's going on in the market.
Yes.
It's super important.
Good morning, Lupe.
Hi, Lupe and Katie. Good
Hi,
morning.
Katie. Good morning. Yes. So you're going to get a lot of, my friend just sold 30 days ago and this happened. You're going to get a lot of that. So as fast as the market's moving, that's why I said it's important to have those conversations. And you as well as an agent, take a look at what's happening, study your market, know what is, what's happening with the, with rates, with, the pricing of the homes. Are they actually getting, more than market value anymore? Like what's happening? So that way you guys can see. I mean, currently, and we're going to show our numbers right now. It's still good, by all means. But I just got an offer accepted this week, and it's so funny because I'm going to tell you the story real quick before we get into it. But when I meet my clients, I tell them, because they always say, Sonia, how am I going to know if it's the one? How do I know? And I tell them, you're going to know, like me and Liz is real. They're going to know. They're going to know, you walk in and you imagine yourself there, you visualize yourself there, you see this is possible. So that's, obviously that's important. So I have these clients I've been working with for a few months, VA, and we've put in, a few offers, but everything, it's like 50,000 over, 40,000 over. We're pretty aggressive. In some cases, we'll remove appraisal because I see that it's, there's definitely, room, because again, every agent is different. Some list below, some list at, market, some list high, it just depends. Well, they're like, man, it's just so crazy, right? So on the last weekend when we went to see homes, I asked them, what do you guys think about this home? Because I can tell, like, I get a feeling sometimes, but I don't really like to share it. So I kind of felt like I see them here, like based off what I've shown them and everything, I feel like this could be their home. So I asked them, how do you guys feel about this house? And they're like, we actually like it. We actually like it. And so I told them, okay, I'll tell you what, let's finish our showings and then we'll regroup. Okay, great. So we did that. And at the end, they're like, you know what, we still do like the first one you showed us. I said, okay, perfect. So what are you guys thinking? And they're like, how much over do you think we have to offer? And I said, you know what, let's offer list price. Let's offer list price. And they're like, really? Are you sure? And I said, let's offer list price. So we offered list price. To make a long story short, they get the property. Their offer gets accepted. So a lot of times people ask, how is that possible? And that's why I tell them, like, what's meant for you will be for you regardless. I mean, yes, there's going to be homes that people have to go ridiculously over because maybe it was priced ridiculously low, or maybe because it has certain things that you're willing to pay more for, and that happens. But it's just goes to show you that you don't have to do what everybody else is doing to get a home. And so you just have to be strategic and know what you're doing and when's the right time to do it. So they're definitely super excited. And I'm excited for them because, it shows a lot about you as an agent, what you're able to do for them. So I'm, like I said, I'm extremely excited for them. So let's get into the numbers. So in Chino, currently we have 28 active listings on the market, 44 under contract, 55 closed. And so average list price, gosh, it's just crazy. 771, average sales price, 805. Okay. 15 days on the market. And here we are in Ontario, 42 active listings, 86 under contract, 79 closed. Again, still getting above list price, 686 versus 710. And again, 12 days on the market is nothing, it really isn't. And Rupa Valley, 26 listings on the market, 29 under contract, 57 closed, and then again, still receiving above list price with 13 days on the market. So again, the market is definitely still moving. You know, a lot of times people say, well, there's not that many buyers. Well, guess what? You only need one. You know, each home only needs one. So we still have a shortage. You know, we definitely still have that shortage. So, Nicole.
Okay, all right. Rancho Cucamonga, 82 new listings, 86 under contract. The average sold price $920. Average listing price is $879. So you can see it's a little bit over there too as well. 12 days on the market and 106 number of homes sold. San Bernardino, we have 86 new listings, 39 under contract. Let's see, the average is $488 listing price, and the average sold price is $508. So you can see right there, it's just a little bit over again. 16 days on the market, 137 homes sold. Redlands, 35 new listings, 46 under contract. Average listing price $674, and the average sold price $689. Almost again averaging out there. So you got 16 days on the market and 43 homes sold. Now we have Highland, 29 new listings, 28 under contract. Average listing price $488, average sold price $508. 16 days on the market and 137 homes sold.
Moving to Colton, we have 17 active listings on the market, 27 under contract or pending, 31 closed. Average list price $551 with an average sale price of $566. 15 days on the market, and these numbers are from the last 30 days. And so Rialto, 35 active listings, 50 went under contract, 60 closed. Average list price $534, average sales price $556 with 11 homes on the 11 days on the market. Sorry. And then last but not least, Fontana, we have 83 active listings on the market. 135 went under contract and 138 closed. 621 is the average list price. 645 is the average sales price with 13 average days on the market.
And that is your update. So what do you, we're still showing, you know, like I said, we're still showing that obviously, you know, the sellers are still getting more than what the, you know, what the list price is. And again, it all depends upon the condition. The condition is what's definitely driving up those prices, because a lot of sellers see that they've done, you know, some extra stuff. I don't know what if you've done extra things to you know, some people have a pool, have a, you know, a backyard kitchen, you know, have certain things where maybe the house down the street, you know, it's for sale as well, but it just has grass.
Yeah.
You know, so someone's willing to pay the extra 50, 60,000 or whatever it is, because they know that it's going to cost them that as well.
Yes. Good morning, Facebook user.
I know.
I don't know who it is, but morning.
I know. Oh my gosh, that's funny. But definitely right now, because like I said, Nicole and I both got a VA buyer in escrow this week. If you do have VA buyers, VA loans are still the lowest interest rate right now that are available. So you definitely, if you have any VA buyers, you know, give them a call and let them know that right now these listing agents are calling you back, and they may actually have a shot now, you know, so.
Yes. Yes. And one of my VA buyers, they were conventional because back when the rates were down, it made more sense. And now that the rates are up, they went VA. So it made more sense. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
The offer you got accepted, Nicole, was that your sellers sounds like?
Yes. Yes.
Yay!
I'm so excited.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and
It was a
that's
challenge,
and that's
but
another thing. They were pretty discouraged, you know.
Yeah.
It's
yes.
and I'm gonna and the reason why is just because what I showed you earlier, or what I was talking about how the rates have changed.
Yes.
So thankfully they have, you know, a good down payment.
Yes, they did.
So their loan amount didn't change. That was
No.
the nice thing about them. You know, the loan amount never changed because of the amount, you know, they ended up putting down more money than what they had planned,
Yes.
but they were able to make it work. But I wanted to share this with you guys really quick before we get into our special guest. I just wanted to show you why it's so important that if you can, like I said, if you have the purchase power, if you qualify and you're able to buy a home, owning real estate is a great investment. Never a bad time to buy if you can afford the payment, or if the numbers make sense for you. So I just want to show you just before the pandemic hit in 2020, January to March, the average list price, this is Ranch Cucamonga, average list price was 568, average close price 564. So they really weren't getting over, there was negotiating. You could negotiate back before that. And then the price per square foot at that time was $298. And you had 42 days on the market. So things weren't flying off the shelf, right? Because that's just the way it was. And out of all those sales, which let's see, I want to say there was about 380 homes that sold in those 3 months. You only had 4 REOs, 1 HUD, 1 probate, 2 NODs, and 3 short sales. So in comparison to the amount sold to the distressed properties, obviously it was very minimal to that time in 2020. So then now you get into 2021, and now your average list price went up it's about $80,000 in 1 year. Okay. So you went from paying $298 a square foot to $336. And now, if you notice, they're getting, a little bit more over list price, right? Because obviously prices went up, and 25 days on the market. And if you notice, there was 6 probates and 3 REOs. So the probates, as we talked about, COVID hit, people, died without having, a trust, or, their finances in order. So unfortunately, they had to be sold through probate. Then you get into 2022, Ranch Cucamonga, same thing. Now you're at $419 a square foot, which again, we were at $298 2 years ago, and our average list is $722, and our average close now is $746. So obviously, definitely getting above, list price. Now we're at 18 days on the market, and we're at $419 a square foot, opposed to where we started, 2 years ago at $298, and then the previous year $336. And then here we have 8 probates, which more people unfortunately passed, 1 REO, and 6 NODs. So a lot of times, again, it just shows you that you just don't know. And I'm sure the people in 2020, there was a lot of fear in March when they said, COVID, we don't know what's going to happen, stay at home, and this and this and this happened. So my buyers that I had at that time, and I remember it so, precisely, were scared and said, you know what, Sonia, what if we lose our jobs? Like, what's going to happen? How are we going to pay our mortgage? Like, we don't want to lose this house. And they were just super scared. And I told them, you know what would make you feel better? And they said, well, if we had 3 payments in the bank, like, okay, let's go back to the drawing table. So we went back, talked to the seller, and said, look, we're not going to close escrow because they're scared. They don't know what's going to happen. But if you give them a credit of, $10, $12, $15,000, they're willing to close the deal. So guess what? 3 out of our, buyers that we were working with at the time, we were able to do that. We either negotiated 10,000, less sales price, or all their closing costs pretty much paid, because there was so much uncertainty. So they were willing to do it. Now, let me tell you, those buyers are thankful because they almost pulled out. So had they pulled out, just imagine where they would be, right? Because everyone still who didn't go through is still kind of waiting for things to come down and the sky to fall and everything else.
Yeah.
So it just, again, it just goes to show you, what do you need to feel comfortable to continue with the process? And I think that's where a lot of agents would just say, oh, you don't want to go through with it? Okay, well, like, what do you want me to do? Like, I can't do this. But it's all about communication, talk. Things change, in a transaction. Things happen. Life happens during a transaction. So again, I just wanted to share with you guys, for those of you that, that just jumped on it and bought, good for you. And don't be scared. Don't feel like, gosh, I'm at the top of the market right now. What's going to happen? We don't know. But what we do know is, if you're going to hold on to it, 10 years, you're not going to go wrong. So you're going to be in your home. You're going to be paying down your mortgage. So obviously the balance is going to come down as well. So you'll be gaining equity by doing that. So don't be afraid. Go for it. And I'm excited to announce our guest today. Yes, go for it. The word of the day, go for it. And, so Jennifer, welcome. Not you, Jennifer. This is
other Jennifer. Hi, guys.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining us. On another episode. We truly appreciate you, agreeing to come on here and share some of your knowledge. Jennifer is a real estate broker and a real estate attorney. So definitely a great person to have on our side, for sure.
That's what I'm here for, to be of assistance in, all the crazy things that are going on. And we are in a crazy market right now. So I am if you can buy. I do believe that the market is going to shift. Just FYI, eventually it will go down. It does that. But the reality is, in time, real estate always goes up, right? So as long as you are, buying something you're going to live in and care for, you will get the value out of owning that home. There's just no doubt about it. So I am going to be talking about a kind of tricky, delicate topic today. So we're going to approach this as carefully as we can, because it's something that the reality is still an issue in real estate, which is discrimination. And so California has passed a new law to try and fight discrimination. And I'm going to see if I can share my screen. Give me a second, because I have a PowerPoint. Let me, hold on. It's not letting me. I have a PowerPoint, but it's not. Oh, here. There we go. There we go. Okay. You guys see my screen?
No. Oh, yes.
Perfect.
There it is.
Thank you. All right. So what this is it's a new law. It's AB 1466. California passes laws by the legislature. AB is the assembly versus SB, which is the state senate. So if you see something AB, the state assembly passed this bill. And so let's see now. So how do I go? Can I move it forward? Give me a second. Let me figure out how to move it forward.
No problem.
All right. There we go. Okay. So this is actually a photograph from 1950 of a subdivision that was built in Los Angeles. And as you can see, it says this tract is exclusive and restricted. That at the time, this tract, by the way, was built by the Veterans Administration. So by our government, they built this, and it was whites only. So only whites were allowed to live in this subdivision. And that's 1950, right? So that's what we were dealing with as a society not so long ago, as far as how people saw the world and what people felt was acceptable behavior. Things started to change in the late 1950s. So in 1959, California actually passed the first law, fair housing and fair employment. So 1959, that was California. And it was used to fight sexual harassment and other types of things in both employment and housing. And then in 1963, California actually passed the Fair Housing Act. Byron Rumford, the gentleman in the picture here on the right, was actually in the state assembly at the time. He was a Black man and lobbied for the rights of people of color. That's how they terminology at the time. And he got this passed. So that's 1963. California actually had a fair housing law. But as we know, just despite there being a law, there's still issues with housing, even today. So at the federal level, fair housing was actually enacted in 1968. So it took the federal government almost 10 years beyond California to get their head into this concept. So 1968 is the Fair Housing Act, and then things have progressed since then. So originally, the protected classes were race, color, religion, and national origin. Those have expanded so that disability, age, familial status, handicapped, gender identity, and sexual orientation are now all protected under the Fair Housing. But that some of those just came into effect this year, right? So we are still, as a society, trying to figure out how to do this and how to properly deal with it. So for those of us who are in real estate, we're used to seeing real estate documents, and that's where this new law goes into effect. It deals with real estate documents. So if you see a document that is in the public records that's before the 1950s, 60s, it may well have an illegal covenant that says Blacks can't live here, or Asians can't live here, or Hispanics can't live here. There are provisions in some of those documents that still say that. And so we decided that was not okay, which is a good thing that we decided that's not okay. And as a result, in 1980, California passed a law. And what it said was any document that has an illegal restrictive covenant, a cover sheet needs to be put on that document. And it has to tell anybody who reviews that document that those provisions are not legal, right? So the actual language that goes on those documents looks like this, right? And it says this thing was recorded before the law, and if it has anything that's in there, it is not okay, and don't look at it, don't use it. But the reality is those documents are still there in the public record. So in my profession, right, I'm a real estate attorney. I am often hired by buyers to review the documents on their real estate transactions. So had this happen a couple years ago, my client was not from this country, and my client asked me to review the documents. This was a subdivision that was built in 1946. It was built because it's in Montecito, right? So here in Santa Barbara, there were 8 homes in this subdivision because the properties all shared a well, right? So we had this well that we had to deal with. So we built this HOA around it, right? 1946. So, when you look at this document, first of all, if you look at CC&Rs today, right? Covenants, conditions, and restrictions is what we put on homeowners association. They're usually a few hundred pages long, right? So this one's 2 pages, right? And it's really only 1 page of actual data. We were definitely not as litigious in 1946 as we are today. But second, when you actually look at this document, there's something really disturbing. So this is the second clause. It says that the parties of the second part, or the survivor of them, his or her heirs or assigns, shall not permit said property to be occupied by any person that is not of the Caucasian race. That's what it says, right? It prohibits that, and it prohibits poultry, chickens. That's it. Mm-hmm. Those are the 2 restrictive covenants in this set of CC&Rs, right? That's the real world. These are still out there. And so I literally had to call this client and talk to him about what was in here. It's not enforceable, obviously. It's garbage, but it's still there. And he has to know that it's still there. And this is not a pleasant conversation to have. I try to make it as, I'm like, do you have any chickens? I was like, no, I don't have any chickens. Well, good, because you can't have chickens. Oh, and by the way, right, there's this other awful stuff in here. So this has been an ongoing issue, right? I mean, we've been trying to deal with it since 1980 by putting these cover sheets. So if you order a title report, a preliminary report, in any subdivision that's built, before the 50s, and there's some old bad documents, it'll have this and it'll have this cover sheet on it. But this year, actually last year, 2021, the legislature decided that that was not good enough. That was not good enough to address this problem. And, think about if you're buying something and there's a covenant that says you can't live there, even if it's not enforceable, that's pretty disgusting and pretty, distressing as someone who, is going to be a homeowner in a project. And so what we've done is the legislature has said, we are going to actually go back and redact these documents. So a couple other examples real quick. If you have not seen this documentary, it's called Long Island Divided. I would highly recommend that you see it. It was an investigation that was done by Newsweek back in 2019. And what it did was it tested a bunch of real estate agents regarding race. So they did a 3-year investigation. They had over 90 real estate agents that they tested, and over 2,000 hours of meetings and records. And what they did was they would go to a real estate agent and they would have 2 different buyers, fake buyers, right? They gave them fake information as far as financials and background and income. One would be white and one would be Asian, Hispanic, or Black. And the results were pretty astounding. Over 19% of the time, the Asians were discriminated against. 39% of the time, the Hispanics were discriminated against. And 49% of the times, the Blacks were discriminated against. This is 2 years ago, 2019, right? So we're not talking decades ago. If you watch the documentary, it is stunning what would happen. The agents would give the buyers different houses to look at in different neighborhoods depending upon their ethnicity. It was disgusting. And so that is still going on, unfortunately. And so, this is what we're trying to deal with. And it happens not only on the realtor side, but in the lending side too. So the CFPB, which is the regulator of lenders, just in 2021, this year, put out a report about continuing fair housing violations and the number of investigations that they are doing into fair housing against significant lenders, right? So 2020, 12 major investigations. So still an issue. So the new law, this AB 1466, puts new requirements on the county. So it's effective July 1st of this year. And what it does is it says, if you have a document that has some sort of negative covenant, we have to notify the consumers, just like we did before. And the people who are mandatory reporters are the title company, the escrow company, the real estate broker, and the real estate agents. All of us real estate professionals are mandatory reporters. If we know there's a document that has something like this, we need to let the buyer know, and we have to give the buyer the opportunity to actually record a redaction of the document. So, and the county recorders through this process are going to be going back and looking at the documents and redacting this bad data. So they're actually going to re-record these documents and redline out the bad data so that they are no longer in the public record. But while we're going through this, it's a 5-year process. It's going to add a $2 surcharge to the recording fee on documents to pay for this process to go do that. In the meantime, if you have a buyer who wants it corrected, the escrow and title company actually have to offer the buyer the opportunity to correct it. There's a form that we send to the county, and the county has to review it and then record the document if they believe that redaction is appropriate. So that is coming, and it will affect real estate transactions. If we have a buyer who wants the redaction, we have to send it in. The county has to look at it and decide if they're going to make that correction or not. So this is a going to be with us for the next 5 years. So this document here is a sample of the modification. So if you have a buyer who wants one, the escrow and or title company can help prepare it and send it in. What I'm recommending for all of my clients is, whether you're an escrow company, a title company, or a real estate broker, putting a disclosure in your documents about this new law. So here's some sample language that I've come up with explaining what's going on, so you can let people know and put them on notice, because we are mandatory reporters, right? The reality is this affects all of us. And inclusivity really is, that big of a deal. So this is my wedding. My father is Hispanic. My surname is Villa. And then I was adopted by my stepdad, who's Black. So I know I don't look like that, but I am, I am someone who would be personally affected by one of these rules and regulations. I know what it feels like. I get what we're dealing with. And so it's really important that as a society, we are taking a stand. But for us real estate professionals, we need to know what we're dealing with and how to address this over the next few years. So I did put a little flyer together, which I sent over. So if you want to get it, the team over at RE/MAX can get it to you, or you can reach out to me to get it. If you have any questions or concerns, you can let me know. So
Thank you.
You.
Yeah,
That's-
it actually happened to me. I had a seller in West Covina,
mhm.
and when we reviewed the prelim, it did say that, but it was back. The home was built like in the 40s,
Right.
and it basically said that it had like the coordinates that they did not, they had, if anyone of color, the only place they could live is in a back home if they had one, and they were to be servants only if they were servants.
Is that not just disgusting?
Yeah. And the buyer was Asian
Mm.
and they were a cash investor. And they were like, is this going to affect me? Because I don't want this to come back. And basically, yeah, it's not valid any longer. Like you mentioned, they didn't put the cover sheet though. We didn't have that. This happened a few years ago and they didn't put the cover sheet, but that was one of the first times I did come across that. And it's, like you said, it's pretty sad, the times that, they had to live in and unfortunately go through that. So,
right. I mean, just look at us right now, right? We got 4 strong women out here. In 1950, we would not be doing this podcast, right? None of us would be doing what we're doing in the positions we are, having the opportunities we have. Yeah. Thank goodness, things have changed. And I'm glad that we're doing something to, make a stand, right? And tell people truly, this is not okay, right?
Yeah. So, yep, we'd be in the kitchen cooking and not saying nothing. Our opinion did not matter.
Nobody would be eating around here.
Any of us would be quiet, but no one might be listening.
We'd be at the store. There would be no Instacart, no Instagram.
Oh my gosh.
So that's funny. But thank you so much, Jennifer. We appreciate that. It's important for, us, again, to stay on top of what's happening and the importance of it, because a lot of consumers are still concerned with that. We're showing homes and it's like, they're asking like, is it, primarily this or that, like,
right.
It's what's going on here, what type of, especially when they're moving from out of the area, they want to know,
the demographics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you got to be very careful as an agent. You can give them facts, but that's as much as you can do, right? Any sort of bias is a problem, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I literally was talking to someone yesterday and they said it was a probate attorney and they were doing a probate sale and it was a multiple offer situation. They got like 13 offers. And the agent called all the agents who, they were being nice, right? And called all the agents who they didn't accept and let them know. And one of the agents was like, you're doing this for discriminatory purposes and, and literally filed a fair housing complaint against them.
Oh, wow.
Right? So, you do, and, we have the whole love letter thing, right? And whether we can or can't do a love letter, this all goes into that, right?
Yeah.
So something we all need to be aware of because you do not want a fair housing complaint, right?
How do we protect ourselves from that, in that situation, if we're the listing agent and, another agent is accusing us for not accepting their offer for discriminatory reasons? I mean, how do you defend that? Other than the facts, I guess, this contract offered more money, has better funds. It has nothing to do with who you are. But
correct. You want to document when you do, especially in these multiple offer situations, you want to document why you chose the one you did. It's very important to have, whether it's price, conditions, contingencies, right? If it's all, people love all cash right now. If it's all cash, right? Whatever the different factor, and maybe it's a shorter escrow period, or maybe they're letting the seller stay longer, right? Whatever the reasoning is, you want to document it so that if it comes up, you can show contemporaneously with this is why we chose this, not because of any of these nefarious reasons. And unfortunately, sometimes the sellers will have a nefarious reason. And if they tell you their nefarious reason, you need to not go with that, right? So I have had that where someone's like, okay, this seller is saying they're doing this for this reason, right? And you can't condone that behavior. You can't do that, right? So it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of experienced something like that. So that's why I was just wondering how I could have. Yeah.
Right. So in that situation, if that's really where they're going to go, maybe you resign from working with them.
Yeah.
Right?
It's better than getting a lawsuit against you.
Exactly.
You just go find your next transaction and stay out of it. I have not been working with someone like that for sure.
There are times, choosing to disengage with someone who doesn't have your values or proper values is not a bad thing, right?
I need to hear that.
Right. And we don't always match up with every client, right? It doesn't make either of us right or wrong. We're just not the right fit, and it's totally fine to say, I'm not the right fit for you. This person might be, right? Or let them go find someone who's going to, within the law, not the illegal stuff, but within the law, right? If it's just something where it's a personality or style or, things like that, it's totally fine, right?
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Thank
you again so much, Jennifer. Thank you so much for coming on here. I'm sure it won't be the last time. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
And thank you, girls, too. Thank you guys all for watching. We appreciate you.
Everyone.
We'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Have a great day.